Welcome to Stoic Daily Stoicism. In today's video, I want to take you straight into one of the most requested topics I've seen on this channel. Not long ago, I ran a community poll asking you what you wanted me to cover next. The results were loud and clear. An overwhelming majority of you asked for a breakdown on the woman's ego and how it quietly controls the dynamics of modern relationships. So I listened. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Now, before we get started, let me set the record straight. There's a dangerous belief floating around in modern dating culture, one that's been repeated so often that many men accept it. Without question, it's the idea that women, by default, are the prize, while men are expected to constantly prove themselves, chase endlessly, and apologize simply for existing. This belief has caused countless men to live in relationships where respect is one-sided. They bend over backward, sacrificing their own self-worth, while the woman, fueled by an inflated sense of ego, sits on a pedestal that no one dared question. But here's the truth that very few men want to admit. Many women enter relationships with an ego so large, so untouchable, that it suffocates the respect they could ever have for you. Now, let me be very clear when I talk about destroying a woman's ego. I do not mean insulting her, belittling her, or lashing out. That's weakness. That's reactive. That's what men without discipline do. Any man can throw words around. Any man can argue. But true strength isn't in shouting louder. It's in moving differently. What I mean is this. You must strip away the illusion of her untouchable pedestal. You must remove the silent belief that she is automatically above you. And you do this, not with words, not with arguments, but with actions, or better yet, your lack of reaction. Because here's the psychological reality. A woman's ego feeds on one thing: your reaction. The more you try to convince her, the more you bend. The more you attempt to win her over, the stronger her ego grows. But when you stop playing the game, when your silence, your calm detachment, your refusal to be swayed speaks louder than any speech ever could, that's when her ego begins to crack. And that's exactly what we're going to cover today in this video. I'll walk you through 6 psychological strategies to dismantle a woman's ego without raising your voice, without long debates, and without saying a single unnecessary word. These strategies require discipline, composure, and self-respect. And once you master them, you'll see why silence and presence often speak louder than any argument. So let's begin. 1. Understanding the source. Expand it. Before you can dismantle someone's ego, you need to understand how it's built. Think of it like a fortress. You don't bring it down by banging on the walls blindly. If you study its foundations, you learn what keeps it standing. And then you quietly remove its support until the entire structure collapses on its own. So let's ask, where does a woman's ego come from? The truth is, it doesn't appear out of thin air. A woman's ego is constantly being fed, day after day, by attention, by validation, by the pedestal society places her on. Take social media, for example. A single post can bring in hundreds of times. A single post can bring in hundreds. If likes, fire emojis, comments calling her gorgeous, beautiful, a queen. She doesn't even need to know most of these men they line up to give her free validation. And when this happens consistently, she begins to believe that her value is unquestionable. It's absolute, untouchable. Now, think about daily life. She walks into a room and heads turn, then glance at her, some stare, some approach with compliments. Maybe her coworkers soften their tone around her. Maybe strangers treat her better simply because she's attractive. Doesn't have to ask for this treatment. Just happens. And over time, this creates a mental state where she begins to assume that this level of admiration is her baseline. Here's the key point. When someone is constantly validated without being challenged, they stop confronting their own flaws. They stop questioning themselves. They stop wondering if their value has to be earned. That's the foundation of ego and endless supply of external validation that shields someone from ever facing reality. But watch what happens when you don't feed it. Imagine this. she posts a picture. And the usual flood of likes and comments roll in, but you don't say anything. She walks into the room, and instead of staring at her like she's gravity itself, you acknowledge her presence but remain composed, calm, unmoved. To her, that's unusual. That's not what she's used to. For the first time, she feels something. She rarely experiences uncertainty, and uncertainty is the beginning of ego. Collapse. She begins to ask herself, why isn't he reacting like the others? Why isn't he chasing me? Why doesn't his energy shift when I walk in? That self-questioning is powerful. It forces her to see that her beauty, her charm, or her usual behavior doesn't give her automatic power over you. And here's the beauty of this strategy. You don't have to say a word. By withholding the energy her ego expects, you destabilize her without confrontation. This is the foundation of dismantling ego. Not through cruelty, not through insults, but through silence and withdrawal of unnecessary energy. You're not being cold. You're not being dismissive. You're simply refusing to be moved like every other man. And that single act is enough to create cracks in the pedestal she's been standing on her entire life.